All right, welcome and good morning to the second supplier subcontractor engagement event that the Hampton Roads Alliance and VMA are hosting with Nexans and Seaway 7. This is an opportunity that companies in Virginia and around the country this time have to engage directly with Nexans and Seaway 7 to learn about their company, the work that they may need you all to do on the coastal Virginia offshore wind project and other projects, and how your company can get involved with their business and with these projects and become a subcontractor to Nexans and Seaway 7. Just to go over a little bit about what we'll be talking about here today, representatives from Nexans and Seaway 7 will tell you a little bit about their companies. They'll tell you about their needs for the coastal Virginia offshore wind project and the process for submitting information about your company to those two companies and how they will evaluate you as a potential subcontractor, and then next steps for potentially working with the group. So I'll go over a couple of housekeeping measures before we get started. So this is a Zoom webinar platform. So you'll be able to answer questions or ask questions in the Q&A box. If you hover over the bottom of your screen there, you'll see Q&A. So we encourage you to ask questions through that box. We'll let the folks from Nexans and Seaway 7 get through their presentations, and we'll see what questions have accumulated, and then get to answering your questions as best we can. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Matt Smith. I'm the Director of Offshore Wind for the Hampton Roads Alliance. We are the Regional Economic Development Organization for the Hampton Roads region of Virginia. And for about a year now, we've had a dedicated initiative to help the supply chain for the offshore wind industry develop in Hampton Roads. And that means attracting businesses that may want to invest in the region, and also making sure that our local companies see and are able to take advantage of opportunities with this emerging industry. So with that, I'll kick it over to my co-host, Will Fadu, to introduce himself.
Good morning, and thank you, Matt, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's supplier and subcontractor webinar. I'm Will Fadu, and I'm the Vice President of the Virginia Maritime Association. And the VMA is Virginia's premier maritime and supply chain business association, representing over 450 member companies in the maritime supply chain space. And our mission really is to protect, promote, and encourage commerce through Virginia's ports. And that's something that we've done for over 100 years. So both Nexans and Seaway 7 are members of the VMA, and we're excited to support this effort today and really connecting you to learn more and find out how you can be part of this business. The VMA has been involved in offshore wind for over a decade now, everything from this type of B2B connection, as well as legislative and regulatory advocacy, and even the shaping of the offshore wind energy area itself. So if you are not a member of the VMA, I really encourage you to either contact me directly at vamaritime.com, excuse me, or you can go to our website, which is vamaritime.com. So with that, I'd like to actually turn it over to our guests today. And Zach, am I turning over to you to kick off this presentation?
Yes, thank you. Sorry. I'm getting into the presentation here, which I hope you guys can now see. Let's see. All right, can you hear me all right?
Sounds great. Looks good too.
Perfect. 2 pluses already. So appreciate you guys spending some time with us this morning. I know we've got a good group of people here. There's a lot of participants, and I think this is an integral part of just kind of how we move forward and how we build this market in the U.S. So my name is Zach Skelton. I'm with Seaway 7. I'm Business Development Manager for Renewables here in the U.S. And I've got some counterparts at Nexans that we'll introduce shortly. We've brought multiple people in different disciplines through the Nexans and Seaway organizations to help answer some questions you guys may have and introduce some of these topics. So what I plan to do here is just kind of do a very brief introduction of the offshore wind market in the U.S. and kind of where we think we're heading. Then we'll kind of start with just what the main wind farm components are. Nexans will take the reins on that one, explain what a field looks like, and then get a little further into the details to talk about the scope that we are hoping to be successful for in Virginia. We'll do an introduction to Nexans and to Seaway 7, and then we'll get into some of those supply chain requirements. So it's not going to be an all-inclusive list, but we've created a pretty good list of scopes that we want to introduce to you guys and let you know these will be items that we will be needing some assistance on. Some of those are procurement items, some of those are service contracts, and we want to start engaging now. So we'll have a kind of quick introduction, some pictures of what those items could look like, what the services contain, and then how to take the next steps with our respective organizations. So what I have here is this is just a general timeline of what the kind of U.S. ambitions are looking like. This is on a state-by-state basis. That if you haven't seen this before, it's an interesting one to show you, what states, what their targets are, when they plan on reaching those targets. Most states have stipulated 2030, 2035 renewable ambitions. And then it kind of shows when the solicitations came out, when the leases were then proposed, and if there was a win. So real quickly up here from Massachusetts, you can see there's a solicitation in 2017. Vineyard won that with an 800 megawatt solicitation and secured a power purchase agreement shortly after. So it kind of has a timeline, good thing to keep watch on. This is kind of a pretty quickly evolving scenario here. So how are these states going to meet these goals? This is what the current kind of lease areas look like on the East Coast. Green squares or dots or shapes, those are ones where there is a lease secured, and then there's a solicitation or financial mechanism also secured. So they've established a power purchase agreement or an OREC to the different state to supply power. The yellow ones are areas that have secured leases where there's a developer that have the right to build on that lease. They haven't secured a PPA or a financial mechanism yet. And then the orange and red ones are proposed areas that Bowen will probably send to or open an auction for, hopefully later this year. So with that, that's a very quick introduction. Feel free, I'm going to say one more thing before I pass it over to my colleague Nexans. Throughout the conversation, throughout the presentation, if you have questions, please use Q&A. We've got a lot of people to help answer those questions, and then we'll hopefully leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So with that, I'll let Runar take the reins here and explain what the offshore grid looks like.
Yes, thank you, Zach. I hope you can all hear me okay. I am Runar Hoksvold. I am a tender manager for Nexans. And I am located here in Oslo, Norway, with a few of my colleagues attending today. So I just thought I would briefly explain the main components of an offshore wind farms, and also link it a bit to the specifics of this Dominion development. To start with, it's evident that Dominion it's a large development, very large project for anyone in the industry, I would believe. It consists of 188 turbines in a grid, and it also has 3 offshore substations collecting the links from the turbines to the export cables. And each substation has 3 export cables going to the landfall or the onshore substation, where it's connected to the grid. So by starting at the left side, where the electricity is generated from the wind power, these are large wind turbines. They are then generating electricity, and the link to the offshore substation is through inter-array cables, medium voltage 66 kilovolt cables that are protected or buried into the sea bottom. The grid in which these turbines and foundations are oriented in is about 20 by 20 kilometers in size. Then the purpose, then they're connected to the substation, which purpose is to transform power or the electricity to a higher voltage to allow transfer to the shore with minimum losses. And then these export cables are a bit bigger than the inter-array cables. You can see the cross sections in this picture. There are 3 core cables protected or insulated by XLPE. The material inside this conductor could be aluminum or it could be copper, depending on the power you wish to transform or limitations in the cross sections that you might have. These cables are also buried into the sea bottom. I think for this project is about 2 meters section level. As they approach the shore, they are guided through HDDs or horizontal drilling ducts, which is basically small tunnels. The purpose of this is to ensure that the environmental impact is minimized. So these tunnels actually go underneath the beach for a distance of maybe 1 kilometer until they arrive at a transition joint pit where the offshore cables are connected to the onshore system, and then onwards to the onshore substations where again the power is transferred to the grid onshore. What's worth saying about this offshore cables, of course, they are laid with highly specialized vessels, offshore laying vessels that there are a mere few of in the world with these specifications and capacities. The HDDs are exiting from the beach a few hundred meters away from the beach and at a depth of 8 meters perhaps. And when you start laying the cables, you lay them from the beach and then you lay them towards the substation. And so the time where the vessel is present at the beach is also minimized. If you want to move to the next slide, Zach. So as mentioned, this is a very large project, and Seaway 7 and Nexans have joined forces on this project to be able to provide the scope that is in this package. The wind farm developments have different setup when it comes to how the contract is split. But in this case, the full contract for us would be the balance of plant, which is basically anything or everything outside the turbines. So the orange part is what we are to supply and deliver. We will install all the foundations for the wind turbines and for the offshore substations. And we will supply and install all the inter-array cables and the export cables. The inter-array cables, or basically the difference between inter-array cables and export cables, is of course voltage level, but also the manufacturing process is quite different. So Nexans, the factories that I will explain later on, are optimized for manufacturing all these export cables. Seaway 7 will install all the foundations for the wind turbines. This is monopile foundations and transition pieces. And the foundations for the substations are jackets. Next slide. Yeah, so just briefly about Nexans. Nexans is a large company which supplies electrical components or cables to different industries. We have basically 4 major business or market areas. One is the high voltage area, which these projects fall under. Then you have telecommunication and data connections. And then you have industry and solutions, which is basically harnesses for cars or trains and aerospace industries. And then you have buildings and territories, which are basically buildings and airports and industrial constructions. All of Nexans employs 26,000 people. The business area that we sort under, the submarine and land business systems, is focusing on manufacturing of these high voltage cables. We have 4 manufacturing locations in the world: in Futsu in Japan, Charleroi in Belgium, Halden in Norway, and Charleston, Goose Creek in the United States. And for the Dominion project, our plan is, of course, to manufacture the majority of the cables, the export cables, in our Goose Creek plant. Yeah, and then just briefly about the supply of cables. So the engineering and design is normally conducted in Norway, where we have our engineering offices. We have one office here in Oslo, and then we have the plant in Halden. In Halden, we also have a lab where we do type testing and qualification testing. The manufacturing and lab are located side by side. It must also be said that the requirements for quality and cleanliness during manufacturing is extremely stringent, because when you manufacture hundreds of kilometers of cable, you cannot allow any deviations from the expected quality. So over the years, we have developed very stringent routines and procedures for maintaining the expected quality to have reliable product. The cables are transported and installed with our own vessels. The top left picture, right by the top left picture, is our new vessel, Nexans Aurora, which is conducting sea trials as we speak, actually, and it's going to start its first project this summer. The right picture is our current vessel, the Nexans Skagerrak, which we have been operating for a number of years. You will see that they have carousels on board, where you load the cable directly from the plant to the carousels or turntables. These cables are not possible to transport on drums, or they're not coilable, so that's why we have to load them directly on the vessels. Our vessels also carry protection tools, remotely operated jetting tools that will bury the cables into the sea bottom. So in one campaign, we transport, we install, and we protect the cables with the same vessel. We also have a land installation department that works with installing land cables to the national grids. I don't know, I think that was briefly it, Zach. Would you want to take it back?
Yep, thank you, Runar. Go to introduction to Seaway. So Seaway 7 is the, I'm trying to minimize some windows here, is the renewables and heavy lifting business unit of a larger company called Subsea 7. So the Seaway 7 footprint is myself in Rhode Island. We have an office here where I am, sorry, the US office is in Rhode Island. We also have a larger oil and gas focused office in Houston. The main business centers for heavy lifting is located in Holland. From our cable division is located in Germany. And we have a good contingency of workforce in our larger Subsea 7 offices in both Paris and Aberdeen. We've recently, in the last few years, opened an office in Taipei. We are conducting work in Taiwan at the moment, and also have some presence in Kuala Lumpur. Our vessels, our heavy lift vessels, their home port is Rotterdam, while the cable associated vessels is Eemshaven, which is right on the border of Germany and Holland. The Seaway organization is around just over 1,000 people, with the larger Subsea 7 being a little bit over 9,000 people. So I'll go over our vessels real quick to kind of explain what these and why these are so specialized and what they do. In the top left-hand corner is the Strashnov. That's a 5,000 ton DP3 vessel. In this picture, it's depicting installation of a jacket. The one in the top middle is the Seaway Uden. It's got a 2,500 ton crane. That is an anchored vessel, and it here is installing a monopile. The top right is the 7 Borealis. That's actually a vessel that's from the Subsea 7 fleet that's primary focus is on oil and gas projects, but it does have a large crane, and we've used her in the past to assist on some heavy lift operations in the North Sea. On the bottom right is the Seaway Amory. That was the vessel that was in Virginia last year, about this time last year, installing the cables for the demonstrator project. And then on the bottom left is the Phoenix, which is another very capable vessel that's just been retrofitted and also conducting sea trials. So it's ready for the market and will start working here shortly. And then in the middle is a walk to work vessel that's in our fleet called the Seaway Moxie. That Moxie shows a walk to work system. And that's where once we've put in the foundations and laid the inner array cables, the winch is put on top of that transition piece. Typically that cable is pulled through the bottom, routed, termination and tested. So it's likely it will not be used in the U.S. We'll be looking for Jones Act opportunities to outfit and to conduct those services. Next slide. So here's a couple more pictures I think are interesting. These kind of show some of the vessels in action. We've been working in this market for over 10 years now. We've done about 600 plus foundations. Those are jackets, monopiles, suction buckets, pin pile jackets, multiple different kinds of foundations. So in the top left is that Borealis installing transition pieces. Over here is the Uden installing driving monopiles. This is a pretty good example of a monopile here. So I think that's a good one. Most of the monopiles that we're looking in the US for projects across the East Coast, up and down the East Coast are ranging. I mean, I think in order of magnitude, they're around 300 feet long, 30 feet in diameter, and can range between 1,500, 2,000 tons a piece. And this vessel shows some pin piles. So those are the jackets for jackets. From a cable perspective, we've also done, I think, over 1,600 kilometers now, and got 700 more in backlog. Done a lot of walk-to-work personnel transfers and connected over 500 turbines. So with that, I think that we've kind of introduced the companies, and now maybe we'll go into a little further into the supply chain and kind of next steps, what the needs are in Virginia. And I want to preface this that the needs that we're gonna discuss here today and show you guys here today, those will be for multiple projects. I mean, right now we're trying to engage with you guys who are local in the Virginia area, but I want you to consider that these projects are going to be going on for years now, up and down from Virginia to Maine. So it's important to start that engagement and see how we can work together in multiple different states. So from a Seaway 7 point of view, it's not, there's multiple different disciplines within the procurement organization. You have procurement of goods and services, and then more complicated work packages. So there's different specialists that we have that are assigned to different categories. And so what we've provided in this email is going to be a single email kind of group address that's going to be sent to multiple different people. So no matter if you are providing goods and services to large contracted works, you've got the right place, you've got the right email, and you'll be connected to the right people who will respond appropriately. So this is a list. I think we'll go through most of these and kind of talk briefly on them, but these can be provided for you later. These are the main identified categories that we've pulled out for local assistance. So here's the first one. I've got fabrication works. In the top left-hand corner, you see barge, grillage, and sea fastening. A lot of these monopiles are moved from a marshalling yard, a local marshalling yard, to the field on barges. They need cradles, they need sea fastening, they need a grillage to help support them on those barges. There's a significant amount of fabrication works and outfitting works required for that. On the top right hand, we see fabrication of spare cable storage tanks. So the inner array cables are a little more flexible. We coil those in these drums or storage tanks from the quayside. So a transport vessel will bring those in, and you can see the cranes, and then there's a roller system to move them and kind of coil them up here. And those will be stored so that the vessel can come back and forth to the quayside as needed to pick that cable up and install it. Bottom right is fabrication of transition piece covers. These can be a simple frame design as you see in this picture, or a lot more complicated. Once these transition piece has been fully commissioned, it needs to be protected. It needs to make sure that there's no ingress in there. So we do need some structural fabrication for these transition piece covers for every single turbine. And then I should have mentioned this, the outfitting and cleaning of those barges. So those barges with all this structural steel on there will need some outfitting, cleaning, flushing. So we would looking for quaysides available to do that work. Marine base support, I'll start at the top left again. Those are surveys, so there's quite a bit of survey scope, whether those are unexploded ordnance surveys or pre and post lay surveys. There's multiple scopes there. Middle top is the Met Ocean and Weather Services. A lot of the work can be weather sensitive, and there's some critical lifts involved here. So we need to know, on an hourly basis what that weather looks like between the quayside, the local quayside, and the field. There's guard vessels in the field. That's the top right. Those are vessels that are just making sure that marine traffic maintains the appropriate distance between the construction vessels, just like you would see in a civil contractor doing work on a bridge or a roadway. You have to have some police escorts, so to speak. Then we'll go down to the right, supply support. There's multiple different services required there for vessels to bring out goods. There's a couple ones. So we're looking for some good, strong DP vessels with big back decks. We have service and supply of goods there. CTVs are the bottom right. Those are the crew transfer vessels. So most of the crew will be transported back and forth from the field or the installation vessels on these crew transfer vessels. The installation vessels themselves typically stay in the field and continue work. This is a 24/7 operation, 365. And so the CTVs are able to do complete crew transfers or send out suppliers as needed. Tugs and barges, that's a big component to move these monopiles. And then we have some protected species observers and endangered mammals monitoring that will be required on the vessel and all the vessels to make sure that we don't interrupt any of the migration patterns of any of the protected marine mammals. Onshore works, I'm going to start over here on the right-hand side where it says site facilities. So there's going to be a facility in the region, and this is kind of a mock-up of what one looks like. Not necessarily the one planned for the Virginia area, but a good one to see how those monopiles are stored, how those transition pieces are stored here. And then there's a jackup vessel, which is not in our fleet, but a jackup vessel that's kind of on that quay side. And then there shows a barge moving some of these monopiles. These monopiles are big enough that you're not going to fit four of them on a barge. This is a smaller rendering. But for that facility, we need fencing, and bunkering and site offices, security, etc. Waste management is something to be considered as well. There's, as I mentioned, the boats, the installation vessels are offshore all the time. There's quite a bit of waste that needs to be transported from the vessels to the shore. That's a service that needs to be procured. On the marshaling yard, the site facilities, there'll be crane mats required. There'll be light towers and power generation required, along with some other items. Stevedoring services is obviously going to be needed there as we move materials, whether those are monopiles, transition pieces, or other supplies on and off the vessels that are coming back and forth. And then I have stewarding and catering services. I mean, this is a picture from the vessel showing a dinner, I believe, that's on there. So they need grocery supply. There's a significant amount of work to feed an army offshore. And then I've got other supply and services. So I'll start in the top right. This is the rope access services. This also shows a different transition piece. This one's a little more robust than the one that was shown earlier, but a different design, a different weather criteria too. So rope access services are people who are in that transition piece, helping to reroute those cables as they're pulled in, and helping do some of the termination and testing works that's required for the commissioning of that foundation piece. Cargo carrying units, containers, and baskets. As I mentioned, there's a lot of rigging, there's a lot of supplies, waste, and so forth that goes back and forth. So this shows kind of one of those OSVs that was shown earlier with a big back deck with some supplies on it. So that would be something that we'd be looking for, along with different rigging materials and slings and shackles come along. So I mean, anything you've got to probably use. We maintain a big store offshore, and those need to be supplemented often. So on the bottom left, I've got non-destructive testing. So that's NDE services. Those are required onshore and offshore, especially associated with the grillage and sea fastening, as well as some other things. QA, quality, health, safety, environment support. This shows the back deck of one of our vessels, the Strashnov, and it shows kind of the crew on board there and just how many people are working. There's quite a bit of quality and health and safety. That's kind of a focus of us. So we'll need some support onshore and offshore for those services. I believe that wraps up Seaway, so I'll pass it back over to Nexans to explain some of their scopes.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you. All right, good morning, all of you. Good morning to you all. My name is Arno Damians. I am Nexans SLS CPO, Chief Purchasing Officer. So for the business group, that's a high voltage that Rina, my colleague, was talking about earlier. So that's for the short introduction about myself. But before I continue, I'd like to thank Matt and Will and all the organizations also for making this possible, and for all of you to take 1 hour of your time, 1 hour and a half, to spend with us, and hopefully, spend a bit more time in the future. So just before I continue and offer you a little bit of a, let's say, a high level view, but still opening a window into how procurement in Nexans is working. I'd like to say a couple of things. One is just to echo on what Zach was saying. Zach from Seaway 7 was saying is that we are talking about one project here, Dominion, but we are in there. So we are in the US, for the long term. And we are trying also to build a supply chain, robust supply chain for us. We have other projects in other states, so we are in there for the long run. And then we need the local partners, very strong local partners. So that is important for us that we start this work properly together with you guys. Just to give you a little bit of a small echo. I see maybe the sound is not top, so I'll try to move my microphone a bit closer to my mouth. Let's say, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how we organize our whole procurement is working, of course, in Nexans SLS. So I am responsible for all procurement that is done within the business group, Subsea and Land Systems. Under my responsibility, there is raw material that goes into our plants, to build the cables, all indirect procurement, also bits and pieces, offices, and so on, and also project procurement. My colleague Estrid Stefansen is the head of project procurement. She's not here today, but I'm representing her. And under this responsibility, we have category managers that will be specialized into certain packages, and then project purchasers, that will work on the other items. So that's how we work. But again, just to echo what Zach was saying earlier, we have provided you with one contact point, because that's important also to develop and to start the discussion. And you should use that contact point. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Just and very quickly, before I let my colleague Henning present the scope of Nexans in this project, I'd like just to say a few words. So for purchasing procurement in Nexans, we are responsible for the interactions with the suppliers and contractors. We offer business commercial support to our team. We have the supply market knowledge. We are responsible also for developing local supply chain when we go from one project to the other. We responsible for compliance and offer business process support to our team in Nexans. One thing that I like to say before I'll let Henning go into what scope that is important for us in this sense. For me, it is important to convey the message that we're in here, for the long term, and what we want to develop is together with you. So basically, we want to maximize the local content and also, be able to comply to all the rules and regulations. So that is very important for us. That is something that we have high on the agenda. So that is important that we start, let's say, that this conversation, based on the right principles. So before Henning, I will let you take the next slide on the scope, and then I'll come back to you a bit later.
Thank you, Arno. Yes, so I will be the tender and project procurement manager for this from Nexans. Together to assist me on this, my colleague Mesut Yalav, he's not here today, but he's the category manager. So he will be in charge of the major scopes of work here. I will go through the different scopes of work that we will be needing. Some of them you will see will already be mentioned by Zach, but I hope you'll bear with me. So I'll just start on the left-hand side here. The concrete mattresses. These are used for protection, typically on the cable crossings, both pre and post installation of the cable. We might also sometimes use them for protection of the cable where we cannot trench the sea bottom. Next is the grapnel run. That's basically done through this vessel, as you can see, where you basically use a dredge to trench the areas on the sea bottom. This is done quite close to the cable installation. We do this before the installation and also for to create a trench and to protect the plow from typically to remove rope or trawler debris. Next, there is the rock installation. This can be done actually before we install the cable as well on cable crossings, but this is typically used post the cable installation, where we're not able to bury the cable. On this picture, there's a fall pipe vessel. This is a highly specialized service, so it's very accurate. You can position the fall pipe to hit the rocks basically anywhere you want it to. Then we will also be needing the guard vessels for our scope, both during the cable installation and after. We need to secure the cable in the areas after the installation as well, before we're able to protect it, typically with the rock installation, to protect it from trawlers or anchors. We'll also be needing the crew transfer vessels going back and forth, and other support vessels as well. One important service is the survey, the pre-lay survey. This is we use it to find the most favorable cable route, but also to find any obstacles, unexploded ordnances, and also to find any marine life which we need to protect, so that we to go around those. For this project, the survey scope is quite substantial, so huge emphasis will be put on that. If you can move to the next slide, please, Zach. Yeah, and like Zach was saying, we also need to have observers, special observers, endangered mammals. Very important there. Another important area is the weather services. We need to have this several times every day from 3 different entities. So during the whole campaign, the campaign is weather sensitive. So this is very important. We'll also need tugboats to help us during installation, barges. We don't have as big like Seaway 7 has, but we will need it for spare cable, drums, etc. We also need to have turntable for the spare cable to be produced. So it's quite substantial work. Yeah, we can move to the next, Zach. Thank you. So as we approach the beach, we will need some horizontal drilling. Altogether 9 tunnels. This is a trenchless. We need it to be trench open, non-open trench. So and in connection with that, we will also be using diving services to help with the pull-in through those tunnels, and also with the pull-in, we will need vessels as well, and winches, and also we may require some jointers. We more or less use our own, but we might use some, and then they will receive training from our crew. A marshalling yard for our equipment, storage area. We will need to construct the transition joint bay. The offshore cable is jointed with the onshore system and cables. Also QHSE monitoring, both on our vessels and on site on land. Next slide, please, Zach. Yeah, and we will also need some fencing for our onshore site, sanitary facilities, offshore offices, waste management, logistics, security, both for our own workers, but mostly to keep the public safe. Logistics, also important, and also agency services to help with a lot of unforeseen services or items that we need to procure. So this is important as well. Yeah, we can move to the next, Zach. Yeah, just to finish off, I'd just like to say that there will be other services or items we need to procure. So even if you don't see any scopes of work within your line of business, please feel free to present yourself to us. We always need more than what you've seen now. So feel free to present yourself, and the contact details will be provided for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Henning. So I will continue, and based also on what Henning was saying, I'd like to say that it is important to know that we have quite a footprint in the States. We have our plant in Goose Creek, which is near Charleston in South Carolina, where we also, if you are interested to provide for that plant, please contact us. It won't be Henning, but Henning will send it to the right person there. So that I think it's also something that you should know, and that is important for us. And then that plant just underwent quite a big investment. So and we'll have a further one in the coming years. So we are a growing business, in the States. So this is important for us, to engage together with you guys. One more thing before I just go through a little bit this kind of like process, which, as you can see in terms of the timeline, is quite long. Is just say that, first of all, we have a functioning plant that needs supply as well. So feel free to contact us, in terms of this. I'd love to give you a couple of fun facts. Maybe, I don't know if it's fun is the term, but fun facts about, Nexans SLS, so the high voltage part. So in terms of purchasing, so procurement, the turnover is more than $700 million a year that we would purchase, everything from the projects to raw material, indirect, and so on, CapEx included as well. That is around, we have more than 3,000 suppliers worldwide, active vendors in our system that we purchase from every day. And then we do around, 30,000 POs a year and 40,000 invoices in the year. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we do. This is only the part of SLS for which I'm responsible for, and for which people around the table here, the virtual table, are sitting and representing in the project. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what is the process that we envision to run with you guys, and actually have already started, and that's why we're here today. First of all, we'd like to give the opportunity to all the companies that are interested, to make a declaration of interest and start the contact with us. It is very difficult, for us to reach out to everyone one by one. So it is very important also that you select, that you self-select and start engaging with us. So this way we have started, and together with our colleagues here of the different organizations, we have started to work on we have a long list of potential suppliers and subcontractors, which we intend to increase basically. Please send, and I will have more detail in the next slide, but please send us a declaration of interest with some information about your company, and then we will put you on the list and start to engage together with you. We have started already to have one-to-one meetings with several interesting prospective companies, and we will continue to do so. Again, this is of course for that one project, but for all the other potential projects that we have in the States, and we have quite a pipeline. Just for the next step after the declaration of interest is for us, to qualify and shortlist the companies that will be that are interesting for participating in formal request for quotations for the different packages and the different scope of work that both Zach and Henning have been showing for the last in the last slides. We will obviously do a selection, a short list of the companies that will participate in those RFQs, and then we will run those RFQs, request for quotation, together with the project in a sequence and in a certain order that fits the timeline and the schedule of the project. So I will not go into all the details of when it's going to happen. Obviously, it depends on the packages, depends on the need. But just I would like to tell you also, it's important that we have a strict evaluation process when it comes to the quotations that we receive. And so of course, we put price, quality, technical competence, experience, lead time, acceptance of our terms and conditions, compliance to law and regulations, helping us out in terms of local content and other regulations there might be. That is high on the agenda, and all those points are part of the evaluation process, not only the price. And then, of course, once the evaluations process has been done, receive the quotes, there's a negotiation. We close a deal with you guys. We basically sign a contract, and then we go into execution at a later stage. So that's how we operate in the project across all the countries, not only in the States, but across all the countries. And that's what we intend to do. Again, this is for the projects. There will be more projects, and we have a plant also that you might be interested in supplying, whether it is supplies or services. So maybe we go to the next slide. Thank you. So basically, how do you reach out to us? The answer is quite simple. Through our partners. Now you have received a letter from us with also the list of the scope that we already presented to you today. So you can go through that if you have any doubts. And the next slide. If you deem it interesting, interacting with us and engaging with us, being part of this, like building up of the supply chain, for this kind of exciting new business area, basically, also for the East Coast and the States, then, please contact us, and then provide a subject line on what the scope you'll be interested in, your company name, and in the body of the email, give us a little bit of a summary of your company, a presentation if it's applicable, not too big. Again, we only humans, so we need to treat that information. And the track record that could be applicable for us. Of course, all ISO qualifications or similar is quite important. We are audited, and we need to have all those qualified suppliers in working with us, and contract details and so on, so that we can continue on the communication. I think the two main points of contact, as you can see here, both for Nexans and Seaway 7, are Henning Jørgensen working with me, and Jigar Master. Sorry, I cannot read very well. I'm not wearing glasses. Sorry, but maybe Zach, you can say the name of your colleague better than me, or even I think it's so.
No, you got it right.
Sorry, perfect. Sorry, I didn't mean to. So please send them to us, jointly or separately, depending a little bit on the scope of work, and we will interact and start to interact with you guys. I think that's the last. Yes. Okay. Then maybe I just shut up. Sorry, and let people ask questions.
All right, I'll kick things off with the Q&A portion of the event, and just we've got some good questions coming in, but just to follow up on the information that Arnaud provided, the site where you registered for this event has contact information for both Seaway 7 and the Nexans procurement leaders, and I also encourage you to fill out the survey providing the capabilities of your company. If you haven't done so when you register, that'll be important to get information to those companies about your capabilities. So I think I'll kick things off with a couple of questions just to clarify the relationship between Seaway 7 and Nexans and where they are in the procurement process with Dominion. So one of the questions we got is, what is the relationship between Seaway 7s and Nexans? Are they partners, and what is their contractual relationship with Dominion Power at this point? So I'll open that up to Zach or one of the other team to address that.
Sure, I can handle. So for this scope, we are not competitors. As we kind of went through the scope of services that we typically provide, next focus is on manufacturing installation of export cables, and our focus is more on the inner array cables and the foundation and substation installation. So we work very well together. We've got some good synergistic kind of solutions that we're building. And so I think I saw another question on the procurement roles. So because we are two separate organizations that are working as a partner for this opportunity, you would need to go through each procurement organization to supply your services. We are in constant contact with each other, so there'll be some synergies there, and hopefully some optimizations of packages between the two companies. But for the initial outreach, you kind of have to go down two paths. There are a lot of similar scopes, and there are some different ones. So yes, I get two different scopes for those two different companies.
Thanks, Zach. You hit my next question there, so appreciate that. The first question that came in is something you all encourage people to ask questions about, scopes of work they didn't see but that might be able to be provided. This question addresses whether you all will be providing your own bubble curtain services, and if that's something that you'll be needed, or you're kind of bring that capability with you.
No, it's something I screwed up on. I didn't include. We do require bubble curtain services. We do need outfitting of the vessels. We need the applicable compressors, hoses. We need the whole service line. So you can reach out to us for those.
Great, thanks, Zach. Let's see. Scrolling down the list here, see a question from attendee about interest in potential unmanned systems. I wonder if you can speak to your need for the use of unmanned or autonomous systems, maybe for inspections or other operations that you may have need around the project for those types of services.
I'll let Nexans speak first on this one. Henning, do you have anything to add?
I would say that most of that kind of equipment we will have ourselves, but under the scopes of work that were previously listed, obviously there will be services within there that's in line with the question. So, beside those scopes, as we've said now, just present your company to us. There might be areas we're not aware of that we could utilize. Yeah, that's what I can say about that at this point.
Maybe just to add on what Henning is saying is that, for certain type of services, we have, global framework agreements with the major players, so we usually we go for this, but we consider always also local players. So basically, if you can be competitive, and have the right level of competence, that could be an interesting thing. So that's why we say that we open for all the scope, because we listed, what we needed from the local supply chain as of now, on top of what we are used to do also and source globally or regionally and so on. But we are very much open for expanding a little bit of our horizon.
I think the beauty of this market is that we're all trying to find solutions. I'm not necessarily on the fly, but as we're trying to find solutions for 24, 25, 26 and beyond. So we love innovation. If you think you've got an innovative product, you think you've got a unique offering or solution, we may have not thought about it. Please reach out and let us know. If we can find a way to do something safer, then we're very interested in hearing about it. So I'd encourage you to reach out. But I don't have anything off the top of my head where I think we have that requirement. But.
And if I may, Matt, I'm a Manual Business Development Director for Nexans in the US. If I bounce back on with what Zach and Arno said, what is very important is right now, we are talking about Virginia, but Seaway 7 Nexans, we're going to be looking for US content. So of course, every state wants content in their state, but find the right partners on a given states where our respective company will work. If you are known to us, guess who we are going to talk to if we believe that you are a valid potential subcontractors or suppliers. So think beyond just Virginia. There are other opportunities elsewhere. Say we can't find the right partners in a given state for a project in that state, then we will naturally talk to you if we already know about you in another state.
Maybe just look for what else is behind you, basically, Emmanuel.
Yes. Yeah, or look at the map of all the projects on the East Coast. I mean,
exactly.
Seaway 7 Nexans, we are all pursuing those projects. Some of us already have a contractor on different projects, and we are already starting to look at local content. And then the second tier, if we can't find the right local content in a given state, we are looking at US content. And people based in Virginia, for a project that is not in Virginia, it's US content.
Thanks for that context about the breadth of the opportunity there, Emmanuel. The question that came in by one of the registrants before the session started this morning was about skilled labor. Do you all have an idea of the types of skilled labor you might need to employ in the area?
Besides the quality, health, and safety we mentioned and the NBE, I think that some of those laborers on some of the labor work that happens on the marshaling yard will be by the heavy lift operator that will manage that yard. So we have a varying group of skill sets that we are looking to bolster that presence with. Speak off the top of my head on what those skill sets are. So I think if you can send an email with you have and what skill sets, we're happy to engage. We also want to talk about eventual training and kind of education programs and exposure potential, because there are a lot of I mentioned the size of some of these MPs and DPs we haven't seen before in the U.S. So we would like to start engaging on the different opportunities there. Thanks,
Zach. We have a couple of questions that have come in about kind of the Dominion project itself and some of the relationships that Seaway 7 and Nexans may have if they win that contract. So one of the questions is, will Seaway 7 maintain custody of assets for a sustained period post-installation, or will they be handed over to Dominion?
There's a period where we have custody and control, but then it's handed over. It's an extended period. It's not multiple years or by any means.
And then a follow-on question somewhat related to that is that will Nexans and Seaway 7, and I think you answered this in some of your presentation, be doing some of the environmental monitoring requirements for part of the project? I assume so when you're doing your installation process.
Yeah, yes, we will. And we will be hiring those services. Definitely.
All right. See, I think we are coming to the end of our submitted questions here. I have one more that has come in beforehand, and in your survey you do address this, but maybe you can speak to how you will prioritize procurement for minority or diverse businesses.
We're developing that outreach, and we're using the services of VMA and Hampton Roads, which if I didn't say it before, but if you're not associated with them, if you're not members, I would strongly encourage you to do so. They provide some great content and exposure and connection opportunities. But through those organizations, they have tracked multiple. They've created some supply chain databases that have diversity qualifications listed. So we're making sure that we go through those and hopefully you reach out to us. If not, then we can we'll do our investigation and hopefully reach out to you if we think you can provide a service or supply that's unique to our interests. I don't know if I answered that question, but I can tell you that we are encouraging that diverse supplier group, and we're hoping to engage.
I think it's, Zach, I can add on that. Basically, I mean, we as part of the engagement letter that we have sent, thanks to your partners here, I think we said that diversity is a deed, so it's a high priority for us. That is something that we engage with on a regular basis. So basically, as part of that engagement letter and declaration of interest, we have asked you to come back also with what your company is doing for diversity, but how your company is also compliant with the laws and regulations, what kind of different diversities that you can represent as per your company, so that as Zach is saying, that we can map that together with our partners, the agencies as well, and create that list and see how we can use basically those companies and influence in the right direction, and also make sure that we have the right level of competence and diversity in our supply chain.
Thanks, Arnaud. So we've come to the end of our questions here. Let's see. I think I'll end the session, and I'll have some housekeeping notes at the end. But I'll say, is there anything that didn't come up through the questions or that you would like to stress as part of the process to the team at Nexans and Seaway 7, just to make sure that companies in our region are taking advantage of this opportunity to the greatest extent possible.
Sorry, Matt, you got cut out for a second.
I just wanted to kind of have a closing note about whether or not there were any things you all wanted to kind of bring up to close out the session that weren't addressed by the attendees. I think one of the things that we stressed last time was that it's never too early to start being in contact with the team, and that you all will be considering potential partners as early in the process as possible.
Yeah, so there's a long lead time to these projects and the development of them. So we showed some of that timeline. So we're looking at and trying to strategize on how we can approach opportunities that have a planned installation in 25, 26, and 27 and beyond. So if we can incorporate your solutions into our package, the engagement's now, and especially if it's something unique and there's some innovation there, it's something that we really need to qualify and go through and have some discussions on. So hopefully these discussions, this is just the beginning of a lot of talks. Now, for sure.
I would like to bounce back what Zach says. People need to understand the timeline of those projects, those massive projects that have long timelines. So when we talk about now, and really now engaging us is starting now, so that you can, we can employ you in 2 years, 2.5 years from now. If you come up, 6 months before the project construction start, it's way too late. Engagement literally need to start now, so we can go through you, audit you, vet you, and then send you RFPs, review your offers, negotiate with you and such. Okay. So it's very important in the offshore wind industry, wherever you're gonna talk to. If you want to be able to play in that field 2 years from now, the engagements start now. And the example, for instance, of Dominion construction will start sometime in 2024, I believe. It's about the right time to start to discuss.
Yeah, and Emmanuel, just to add on this, and then on top of this, we have the plant that is running already. We have all the projects in other regions, in other states, sorry. That will also need suppliers and subcontractors. So we are interested in finding, the best and the brightest, in the different states and bring them perhaps also other places. So that is important that we start the discussion. We start those discussions now. Yes. It takes time to build, competence, local supply chain. For you guys also to work with your subcontractors and so on. So that is important for us to start engaging.
Yeah, the components we are providing or installing, there are critical components of the wind farm. We are very conservative in a way. So we will audit you, we will work with you to discover who you are. We are not just going to sign a PO for X million dollars and deliver in 2 months from now. It's a long process. You have to respect the timeline of those projects. And this timeline, by the way, is not controlled by us. They are not even controlled necessarily by Dominion. They are also controlled by how the permittings evolve and how they are ready to start construction. So, but the engagement still starts now.
All right, thank you to Zach, Arnaud, Henning, Runar, and Emmanuel. Really appreciated that informative presentation and discussion and the good questions from our participants today. So I'll reiterate that you can find additional information on the scope that you saw here today and contact information on the page where you registered. We will also send out a recording of this session to all the registrants soon. And we hope that you are in touch with the Nexans and Seaway 7 team about your services. So with that, I think we will close out the session and appreciate teaming up with Nexans and Seaway 7 for these events.